So, this is gonna be a little bit of a hot take, talking about church going in the middle of the pandemic. I am normally not very comfortable with sharing controversial opinions, especially on the internet, but I think that this is a very important thing to talk about, so I really want to talk about it. I don't know how many people is gonna watch this video, and realistically, probably not that much. But in any case, if anybody watching this has a different opinion than the opinion that I'm about to say, then that's completely fine. I'm open to different opinions. I'm open to different perspectives. I am more than happy to listen to what you have to say in the comment section below. So with that said, let's just get started with the video. So I think we all can agree that the world is in kind of a tough spot right now with the entire global pandemic thing going on. And this global pandemic has bore a lot of negative impacts on the lives of a lot of people. A lot of people have lost their lives, a lot of people lost their loved ones, a lot of people lost their jobs, and to kind of touch on the topic of today's video, a lot of people can't go to church, and a lot of churches have closed down. And it's not just churches really, a lot of places where people gather together, either for religious or non-religious purposes. A lot of these places have closed down permanently or temporarily, and it really sucks. And don't get me wrong, I love going to church. Church going for me is a time where I can kind of reconnect with God and sort of refresh my faith. I listen to God's words at church and receive guidance for my day-to-day life. So I love going to church, I love being part of the church community. But I've gotten a lot of news from various places of the world that a lot of churches have opened up in the middle of the pandemic, and this raised a lot of questions and raised a lot of opinions on whether or not this is morally right and whether or not this should happen or not. And that is what I'm going to address today. Now, I think that there's a difference between saying that you're going to church in the middle of the pandemic and that you're going to church in the middle of a lockdown. Because the pandemic is something that the entire world is facing, hence the term global pandemic. But a lockdown is something that your local authority issued in order to stop COVID cases from growing. Usually because the COVID cases in your local area is really high or almost really high. Now, generally and frankly, I don't think it's wrong to go to church in the middle of the pandemic as long as there is no lockdown regulation from the government. Because, for example, in the place where I live in Jakarta, Indonesia, and we are no longer experiencing a lockdown. And places such as malls and restaurants and even movie theaters have opened and have welcomed visitors again. And these places have reopened for quite some time, and they have operated normally again, and they have implemented and enforced very strict safety protocols. And I think the same thing can be said about churches. I mean, if these places can be opened, then why can't the churches? That's my point of view. But churches, just like places like malls and movie theaters and restaurants, should implement strict safety protocols, and they should enforce these protocols as well, which means that people who go to church must wear masks, their temperature must be taken before entering the church premise, they must socially distance themselves and maybe add quotas in order to restrain the amount of people that can be present in a church at the same time, in order to avoid the church from being too crowded of a place. So yeah, I think it's completely fine to go to church in the middle of the pandemic, given that there is no lockdown regulation issued by the local government. Just everyone should stay safe, everyone should stay healthy, and the church is responsible for making sure that everyone who is attending the church services are adhering to the safety protocols. Now, it's a different story when you say that you are going to church in the middle of the lockdown. And personally, I think it's not a very wise thing, and I am quite against it. I've heard stories of churches opened during a lockdown, and I really think that it's unwise because, again, usually when there's a lockdown in your local area, that usually indicates that COVID cases are either really high or almost really high, and the government is trying to take precautions in order to stop the pandemic from being worse in your local area. And I want you guys to think about it this way. A lot of people have lost their lives, a lot of people are putting their lives on the line, and I think we as Christians, if you're watching this as a Christian and you are concerned about whether or not you go to church in the middle of a lockdown, we as Christians, we are the light of the world. And I will read a verse, Matthew 5 verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, I don't think we are letting our light shine before men and letting men see our good works so that they can glorify our Father in heaven. I don't think we're doing that if we are going to church in the middle of a lockdown, because I think it's very irresponsible. I think we are taking for granted a lot of the things that people have sacrificed for us. Think about all the doctors, think about all the medical workers who are putting their lives on the line in order to stop this pandemic from growing. And I know that there's a vaccine available right now, and I know that these vaccines are being distributed all over the world right now, but that in no way indicates that this pandemic is over. We are still in the middle of a global pandemic. You should still do your part. You should still do things in order to stop this pandemic from growing, and one of the things you can do is follow government regulations. Now, I think that there are really good alternatives to church going. For instance, I haven't been to church for almost a year now, and for the past year, I have been listening to God's words through online streaming. My church actually started streaming their services on YouTube, so I've been tuning into their streams every Sunday. And there's actually a lot of churches that have made YouTube channels and streamed their services on YouTube. And if you want to be part of a Christian community, then I may suggest you to join a Discord server, because that's what I've been doing. I joined a Discord server, I joined a Christian Discord server, and there's a lot of really good people, there's a lot of really good servers. I kept in touch with my church friends, like we hung out, we talked, like we played games of Among Us a couple times. It was fun. So I really still get to experience being part of a Christian church community, and I still am able to listen to God's words through online streaming, and it's been serving as a really great alternative from church going for me. So that's what I want to share today. And again, these are just my opinions. Of course, you can have your own opinions. If you have your own opinions and your opinions happen to be different from mine, then I'm very happy to hear what you think in the comment section below. So anyways, that's the video. Thanks for tuning in, and may God's peace be with you. Goodbye.